Hi guys, this is Aish again from the International Quilt Show Dubai 2020 comedy, and here is a new YouTube video that probably takes you through a little bit more information on our quilt exhibition that is coming up very soon. If you didn't know, we are hosting our next quilt show on the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th of February 2020, and the prep is on, the heat is on, and we are so excited for all the changes that are being done on the website right now. That is www.quiltsdubai.com. Hopefully in the next couple of days you're going to see a lot of new information popping up. We've got our classes sorted out, we've got our teachers blocked and booked and coming in, we've got our hotel venue sorted, and so many other things. So I'm very excited to give you this information over the next couple of videos. So today's video, we're going to be going over all the rules and regulations that the committee has set forward with respect to the quilt exhibition. Hopefully you would all understand a lot better by the end of this video on as to what makes a quilt eligible to be entered into the Dubai Quilt Show, the deadlines to submit, the fees that you might have to pay, how we expect you to send your quilts, how your quilts are going to be sent back to you in case you don't live in Dubai or you're not going to be present at the quilt show, etc. etc. So they're about like 17 or 18 points. So let's go over it. All right, first things first. For a particular category, an individual can only enter 2 quilts. That means that we've got about 8 categories. I'm gonna plop up the list somewhere here just to remind you all as to what those 8 categories are. And at a given point of time, you can only enter 2 quilts per category. That if you're very ambitious, you could probably just see how you can maximize the number of submissions that you can have for our quilt show. But yeah, 2 quilts per category. Make sure that your quilt is in the appropriate category that best fits what it looks like and what it stands for. As an organizing committee, based on the photographs you send in, if we feel that you have probably placed it in the not most appropriate category, we will send you information on category switches. We just want to make sure at the end of the day that all quilts of a certain kind are in a certain category, especially because they're in competition, and you honestly have a better chance of getting a prize if your quilt falls in the right category, right? Point number 3, the quilt needs to definitely be of 3 layers. So even if you're working with the category of wearable art, we're looking for 3 defined layers. You're going to have a top sheet, you're going to have a middle batting, and then you're going to have a back fabric, a backing fabric. And we need to at some point see a visible quilt stitch that binds all the 3 together. We have had submissions in previous years where we only received a top sheet or some sort of applique where we couldn't really find batting. Such kind of creations are not going to be registered as an official entry to the quilt show. So we want you guys to be very careful about following this particular definition of what we would call a quilt. All right, your quilt needs to have been completed over the last 2 years. This basically means that any quilt that you're entering into the show in 2020 needs to have been completed between the years 2018 and 2020. You could have started making this project years and years ago, but we are only measuring date of completion. If we as organizers are pointed out that your quilt has been done in the years before 2018, as in it's been completed in the years before 2018, it may not affect your registration into the exhibition, but it definitely might have a consequence in terms of whether your quilt would win a prize or not. A very important point, the quilt exhibition or the Dubai International Quilt Show is not, we don't require that you have genuine designs done for all the quilts that are entered in. In case you are following any pattern, any techniques, any design elements, or whatever that has been bought and you have broken that down and you have used that to make the quilt for the show, All we require to do in the registration form is to leave some credit so that we can mention that particular pattern has been influenced by a designer or a pattern that's bought off the internet or whatever it is. So a lot of people are asking us how they can register for for the 2020 Quilt Show, how they can register their quilt and enter it in to the Quilt Show. First of all, you're all very, very early. The website is not open for registrations for the quilts for the exhibition yet. We're only going to open this on the 1st of November. So there's roughly around 3 weeks left before the website goes live in terms of accepting quilt registrations. The first thing you have to do, starting the 1st of November 2019, is you get on www.quiltsdubai.com and you look out for the quilt entry registration form. Once you find that on the website, there is a list of fields for you to fill out that helps us better understand everything that we need to know as organizers about your quilt. Once you fill up all the details, you will get a completion success sort of email, which sort of helps you understand that we as organizers have received your quilt registration. So quilt registration forms sort of helps us give your quilt a place in our show. So if you want to enter your quilt into our show, you have to fill up the form. If you don't fill up the form, there is no guarantee. So we highly recommend that you follow this particular procedure. You can fill up these quilt registration forms all the way until the 31st of January 2020. So there is a long period, there's 3 months of time for you to sit and fill out all the details of your quilt. In case you haven't finished your quilt yet and it's still a work in progress, that's why we've given you this big window. There is an element in the registration form where you have to send us a picture of your quilt as well. So definitely we recommend that you fill out that form after you've at least finished your quilt top. We've gone over registration form submission deadlines, which is 1st November all the way to 31st January 2020. Let's come down to when we will physically receive the quilts. We need to physically receive the quilts by the 15th of February 2020. If we do not get the quilts by then, there's a high chance it may not be judged for sure, and then it's questionable whether it would even then go up on the exhibition stands. So it's very important that once you fill up the form, depending on where you stay in the world, you sort of track on as to how much time it's going to take for the particular quilts to come to us in Dubai, so that we have enough of time to basically keep it in the exhibition and the show. That's very, very important to us. All the quilts that are entered into the Quilt Show definitely have a registration fee attached to it, and for our 2020 Quilt Show, every quilt has a registration fee of AED 150 attached to it, which is roughly around $40. This does not cover any shipping cost of the quilt from wherever you live to where the Quilt Show is, but it definitely does cover a minimal amount of insurance that we would be giving and safety that we would be providing to your quilt as it is being displayed in our show. A lot of detail about the insurance facilities will be listed in the quilt registration form and even on the rules and regulations that will be listed on the website very soon. In case you have any questions regarding this, you're always welcome to email the company, and we're very happy to get back to you with respect to that. All the quilts that come in definitely need to be labeled. So I'm going to put up a little graphic over here to give you an idea about how we intend you to label your quilt. Basically, if you flip the quilt and you are looking at the back of your quilt, you want to put your label on the bottom left side. So I'm just going to quickly show you what that would look like as an image so that it's clear for all of you. What details would you put on your label? Nothing more than your name, the name of your quilt, and the unique quilt reference number that you are going to get once you fill out your registration form. Once you have these three on your label, it is more than enough for us to understand where to put your quilt. Please don't forget to even label, if you've put your quilt in a bag or in your packaging, please don't forget to label that as well with at least your quilt registration number so that we can match bag and quilt together before we ship it back to you. Anything that you need to watch out for before you send the quilt. So first of all, the quilts, the way they're sent, they will always be sent back the same way. So we retain the packaging that you give it in unless the shipping has probably damaged it, and then we repack it in a different case. But you'll mostly get it back the way you send it to us. So if your quilt has 3D elements, make sure that you use considerable amount of fragile packing method so that nothing gets broken or nothing gets damaged on its shipment way. The address to ship will be posted on the website as well, so that you can just use that and you can send that to the right place. So your quilt is going to reach us hopefully maximum by the 15th of February 2020, and we will keep it with us till the end of the show. That is the 29th of February 2020. If you're present at the show and you live overseas, the breakdown of the show roughly happens in the evening on the 29th. So you can be present on the day and you just have to sign off your quilt and you can always take it and go with you. For all other people, we will definitely ship it back to the address that you have posted it from or you have indicated in your quilt registration form. We also have options for people to designate someone to pick their quilt up, for which we will definitely leave space in the registration form for you all to note it down so that we hand the quilt to the right person. A couple of things that we would definitely like to recommend for outstation quilters who are sending in their quilts from previous experiences that we've had organizing our quilt show. Two things mainly. One thing is kindly undervalue your quilt when you are shipping it, because if you do put a very high value on it, there is going to be a hefty customs charge that will come as the quilt enters into Dubai, and this is usually charged on you. So either you should be willing to pay that amount, or you want to undervalue it so that the amount is not too large and it doesn't really affect your shipping cost overall. Secondly, we always recommend that you use shippers who provide you legitimate tracking IDs and that you can actually see where your quilt is moving. We've had one experience in the past where somebody engaged with a postal service that offered no tracking methods or IDs whatsoever, and the quilt never reached us. So we want to make sure that you use legitimate postal services and carriers and agents and courier companies that can make sure that your shipment arrives safely, because we are going to do exactly the same to send it back to you. One last thing I would definitely like to mention, and this is a beautiful opportunity for quilters who are artists looking to sell their work. This time in the 2020 Quilt Show, you have an opportunity to sell your quilt. So not only would you register your quilt and would it be part of this big competition where you could win a lot of prizes for your quilt, but if a viewer, a visitor loves your quilt enough to want to buy it, it is possible. Details on how to register your quilt to sell it will be on the registration form as well. But I hope this makes you all very excited to see that if somebody truly appreciates the art that you've put out there, that they're willing to buy it, Quilt Show 2020 in Dubai is definitely an avenue for you to display that. How can one pay? Well, we've tried to be very flexible and we try to give you a lot of options in the way you can pay us to register your quilt. We can do it online, and this usually comes to you in the form of an email. We work with a company called Teller. It's very similar to PayPal. All you have to do is just log in your card details and it's sorted. You could even do bank transfers. You could even come to Classic Quilts and you can pay cash or card at the counter, or you could just do a money transfer. The details of that will be once again present in the registration form. So that is pretty much your Bible, guys. It tells you everything that you need to know about what it takes to enter a quilt into our show. So I hope you're all very excited for the show. We cannot wait for that beautiful environment that the show brings with it every time round. It's gonna be a lot bigger, a lot more buzzing. So spread the word, tell your friends and your family that there is a quilt show coming in Dubai. And you know what, whether you live here or you don't live here, there's always a way for you to be a part of it. So stay tuned for following videos. I'm Aish, and if you have any questions, you can drop me an email. I'm just going to put my email address down here, and I'm happy to answer you. See you in the next video. Until then, I hope you're working on that project.